All right, welcome, BTC students. We have a question from Peter Rust asking, what do BTC students do to combat busyness and loneliness? And Peter's asked us to take that on, so I'm going to start with Jeff Grothe here. This is Claudia Mineli and Mitchell Senti, and I'm going to ask Jeff to start.
Sure. I'm going to first start by talking about the busyness part, kind of separate those two. And this is something I can speak from experience on a little bit. So I went to Western here in Bellingham, and I guess you could say I was pretty busy during those years. I was in the industrial design program, which is pretty competitive. And so I was in the studio a lot. I was probably working at least 60 to 80 hours a week on average, pretty much at least, the last 3 years of my 4 years there. So, so that was really, really difficult. And it began to really take a toll, first of all, on my health, but just mentally. So I did frequently get sick. So, my immune system started not doing well. And then also, I had a few breakdowns, a few burnouts, if you will. And so the first thing I would say, kind of looking back on that, was I really questioned whether it was worth it. I really do. And so I do look back and say it probably would have been more wise to slow down, to try and get a little bit better schedule in there. For me, I probably could have stretched that out 5 years. Sometimes that's not possible, but there's another few practical things I've learned as well. And the big one is how to use your calendar really well. So I began to notice how long it would take to do certain tasks, and just really keep track of that. But the most important thing to put on the calendar first is some space to do nothing. So some unplanned space, some rest space, some space to do activities that would fill me and give me energy again and would be healthy, and time with friends and things like that. And then also putting all of those things I had to do on the calendar, just to be able to organize it well and also get it off my mind. And so I'm like, I've got a lot to do, but I know when I'm going to be doing it. I know about how long it'll take me, and that just relieves so much of that pressure off. So those are some things I would say for that.
That's good. Claudia, what would you say?
Yeah, I enjoy what you just said there, because busyness is so real being in college and working, part-time, going to school full-time. And busyness was just the lifestyle, But looking back, if I could talk with my 20-year-old self, I would say, slow down, girl, slow down and enjoy life. Take time to rest. I think we were built to have relationships with people, to have community, and to have time to rest. That's extremely important, because you don't want to go from point A to B of just trying to accomplish a degree and education, and the prize being your health, affecting your physical health, your emotional, your mental health. So I think it's important to keep that in mind, that it's necessary to just slow down and be intentional about it. Look at the calendar, plan time to just slow down. And so I think sometimes when you think about taking a break or taking a vacation, you're thinking like, I can't afford to take a month off school. I can't afford to take a week off. But sometimes even mini breaks can help, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, or a walk at the park, a walk by the water to just reset your brain, reset your emotions, and just caring for self, taking time to care for self. I think is really important.
That's good. I'm hearing time management in both of what you're saying, and I would totally agree. I think writing down your priorities and really what are your values? Like, what do you value? And I think rest and being time with friends and so on should be part of that, and not be left out because you got to be so driven, Right. But writing down your priorities and then looking at your schedule and saying, now, is this matching? is this really what I want to be doing? Could I, we can get caught when we're really busy in like a Netflix binge or something. And then we're kind of like, well, why did I do that for 3 or 4 or more hours, But I think some of that is like, am I keeping my priorities, not, and maybe it is watching a Netflix show, but then stopping after 2 hours or something like that, but writing down those priorities and keeping that time management, going and like a day off, I think is actually wise, every week. With that, it kind of segues into busyness, but I think doing life together with people. And what I mean by that is instead of feeling you've got to add things to your schedule in order to do things with friends all the time, kind of thinking about what am I doing right now that I could bring other people into. Right. So say you're a single mom and you've got to do laundry and a person in class wants to study with me. She's also a single mom. It'd be nice to do that, but I have to do laundry. We'll have her do laundry with you and then study together and do a play date with the kids and do that all in one afternoon or do that over a couple of different times. But thinking about, what am I doing that I could bring other people into, I think can mitigate some of that busyness. And also, as we'll get into, some of the loneliness too. And I think coming into loneliness, I think these things are tied together. We're in a culture that's very busy. We tend to be isolated in our culture from each other. So what could we say? Why don't you start again, Jeff? What could we say to the loneliness factor?
Loneliness, I think is something we all deal with at some point. And I think that is important to say. I think it's important to say, first of all, that loneliness, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And we're going to feel loneliness during lots of different parts of our life. And it doesn't matter if we have lots of friends or no friends or, single or married, you're still going to feel lonely sometimes. And that's normal and that's okay. And it's great to come to a spot where you're like admitting it and saying, I feel lonely. And so I think that's a great spot. One of my loneliest times was I was about 6 years ago now. I moved to Berlin, Germany, and it was part of a kind of short-term missions team. So I was there a few years, and at first it was really great. It's really fun. You're in this new spot, but after a while, it was hard. It was a new culture, a new language. It was difficult to make friends. And I started really missing, those close friends from home and family. And our team was pretty spread out. And so I didn't get to see them much. And so, I fell into pretty deep loneliness. And so that was kind of hard to deal with. And I think the first step was just being able to admit, like, I need help. And so through that process, first of all, my faith in God became very important. So I would pray to God and be able to express those feelings to Him and ask for help. And I believe those were answered. And so I ended up finding a fantastic community to be a part of, a church community, but then also open up more to my roommate and be able to share with him, hey, I need someone to hang out with, or, and being able to open up more just about what's going on and just really develop that deeper connection that I think we all need. And so that goes, to my other point is, being able to ask for help. And I just got done reading a book that was kind of on that. I'm blanking on the name of it, but People Fuel. Anyway, but one of the first chapters talks about, hey, if you have some negative emotions or things like that, it's okay to go to somebody and say, hey, I need help. I feel lonely. I could use someone to hang out with, or can I talk to you about something, or can we hang out, or, things like that. And I think more often than not, you'll find that they are more than willing to help out. And it ends up being a fantastic experience. You do need to swallow some pride there, but it's always worth it. So, yeah.
That's good. What would you say, Claudia?
Yeah, it seems like busyness and loneliness is really intertwined in a way, because thinking about college days, you're always so busy and you're around so many people in class, and even if it's virtual classes these days. So there's people all around, but that doesn't mean that you don't feel lonely, that we're longing to have face-to-face relationship and talk and laugh and have coffee with someone or even study together. So I would say that with loneliness, when thinking about the college days and the busyness and trying to get school done, I would say intentionality is like super important. Like really think about, okay, how can I connect more with people? Is it through social media? It's a tool that it can be useful to even connect with people, create a little virtual group, and then get together in person, whether it's a book club or a study group or coffee time or a walk by the water. So connecting with people of similar interests, sometimes you find new friends, even the community in social media. But just being intentional, I think it's really important to take the time to think and plan, plan the study group in person or plan activities together and taking the time. So
it's really good. One of the things that we talked about earlier was social media is kind of a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It's both a way in which we can connect, but it can also be, if it's used wrongly, a way where we can kind of compare ourselves to each other and be kind of down and
isolated
and like get addicted to it, but not actually ever get together in person or talk on the phone. Like if it's a means to community,
right,
or a way of that, that's a good thing, but it can be the other. So maybe limiting it for certain things and
right,
using it for others
is
probably helpful. And similar to my point earlier with loneliness, which I think is tied in, was doing life together. When you said we can be around a lot of people, but we can still be lonely, I think a lot of people relate to that, actually. Mm-hmm. And I think what's really important, like you said, be intentional to go deeper with each other. To ask questions like, how are you really doing? And then saying what we really think sometimes just being honest about where we're really at. Because if we're always kind of saying what we think other people want to hear, we don't actually ever get known. And so sometimes just being real about, this is what I really think, and maybe there'll be a disagreement in the relationship, right, and then you'll kind of work through that. And actually, ironically, you can become less lonely because you've gone deeper with people.
You're engaging,
in relationships. So that, and I think, there's single moms with kids. There's different scenarios. It's hard to figure out as a student, how do I do life together with people?
Right.
Some ideas of how to do life together instead of like, oh, I've got to schedule something with friends on the weekend, and now, well, I can't do that because my son has this or my daughter has this or I've got this project and I don't know how I'm going to do all this. But just kind of chill and go, okay, how do I do something with someone that would be life-giving to me and to them, but also kind of do life together? That's kind of the biggest thing. The other thing is, I think, looking for ways in like BTC's campus or virtually, like you said, even BTC Salt is a way of kind of connecting with other people, finding out who other people are, and then maybe connecting with them outside of that too, or like a small group or something like that. But finding ways to go, how do I intentionally get together with people if I am struggling with loneliness is I think it's similar to what you said, but I just want to reiterate that.
Yeah, take some intentionality. And if I may be a little bit more negative about the social media,
please.
I think I like completely agree that there's a balance, but I would still encourage somebody, like try not being on social media for a while, see what happens.
Right.
Take a break.
I think it affects people more than they realize.
Yeah.
So I would say it's sometimes more of a big deal than,
Well, I have a good example about that. I found myself not seeing friends, not calling friends, not texting, no connection at all. I was just literally just scrolling the pages on Facebook and Instagram. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, I was like, wait a minute, I could be calling someone right now. I could be wishing them a happy birthday. I think it was that I saw a birthday post and I just liked it and I said, happy birthday. And I realized, wait a minute, this person lives down the street. I could just call them, take them out to lunch, hang out with them, and make a big deal about their birthday. So I made a decision to deactivate social media. for about 3 months. I deactivated everything and I said, okay, for these 3 months, I'm going to be intentional and make time for friends, make time to not be lonely or not be isolated. So I started texting and calling and remembering people's birthdays and even sending birthday cards, old fashioned way. So, and that was amazing. And I did not miss social media at all, So after a while I came back because social media, it's a tool, right? It can be good. It can be used for good things. And it can also be a way to keep ourselves isolated. And so I did come back to social media so I can connect with friends that live in Norway and Brazil and those that I can't see in person. So it's great for that. The other example I was going to mention that it can be a good thing, Jeff, is that, for example, my son, who is 15 years old, was going through a hard time and a lot of isolation and anxiety and things like that. And through social media, he saw people sharing their journeys about loneliness, about anxiety, about depression. And for him to listen to others sharing on social media, because if he's at home and he doesn't want to go anywhere, but he's running into these posts on social media, so that triggered something. And that was the breakthrough for him to come out of isolation and loneliness and anxiety, because he's like, wow, there are other people out there feeling the same way that I am. And he started going to the parks and hanging out more. So it was neat to see that journey, how I was like, wow, this can be used in different ways, so.
Right on. I think any final thoughts we could give BTC students to give them on busyness or loneliness?
Yeah, I think one thing I think I was going to say on kind of busyness, but this also gets at the loneliness part too, I think. I'm reminded, I think it's a Dallas Willard quote or something, but ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. And I think that's a really important point, and I think it's something in particularly our culture that we need to hear, is that this constant rush. There's a great verse in Ecclesiastes 4, I think, and it goes, "Better is one hand with tranquility than two hands with toil and chasing after the wind." And sometimes we're hurried and we don't make friends, and there's maybe a goal we're pursuing, or we're just keeping up with everybody else around us. But then when we finally get there, it's just wind. And so don't waste your years on things that won't ultimately matter. Yeah.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. And I would say, yeah, I love that. So going from point A to point B in completing your goals in school, remember to slow down and remember to enjoy the journey and enjoy the journey with friends, because relationships and being around people is in our DNA. So it's for our own benefit to take the time to slow down and connect with people.
And I feel like I'm in that hurry, and it's hard to eliminate. I think we have to acknowledge that it's difficult, but as much as we can be intentional, right. I think we can cut down on it. We can maybe we say yes too much to too many when people ask us. Yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. And pretty soon we're like, how did I say yes to all that? Maybe we can think about saying no to some things. But that would be our sage advice, our wisdom to share with BTC students, and I hope it's helpful for them. But thank you both so much. This has been great.
Thank you.